Construction contractor Tan Xianhui received a phone call early in the morning of May 20, 2002 at his family home in the Hubei province city Yicheng and left the house without telling the rest of the family where he was going. Later that same day, at around 6 p.m., his wife Zhang Yuhui, who worked with her husband, received a phone call herself, and like Tan Xianhui left the home without mentioning where she was going. Given the nature of their work, it wasn't unusual for the couple to be called to deal with issues at construction sites, and for them to be away for some time depending on the problems that needed resolving. However, when they failed to return to the family home after 5 days, with their relatives unable to reach them, the concerned family contacted the police to report the husband and wife missing. The police began interviewing friends of the missing couple and visiting the various construction sites their company was working, but no one had seen or heard anything from Zhang Yuhui or Tan Xianhui for several days. From the interviews it emerged that neither of them had visited any of their sites on the day they disappeared and the days since. One potential clue the investigation team had in the hopes of solving the mystery was tracking down the number used to call the now missing couple's home twice on May 20th. The calls were made with a cell phone using a 50 Yuan phone card, which was slightly unusual at the time, as few people owned cell phones. The SIM card had only been used to make the 2 phone calls, with no record of it being used for any other calls prior to or after the calls made to the missing couple's family home. The lead came to nothing, with unlike today there being no requirement for people to register their real names when purchasing phone cards, and police unable to trace where the SIM card was purchased. The only other possible clue to find an answer to the mystery were the couple's banking records. The investigation team discovered that the day after Tan Xianhui and Zhang Yuhui left the home, a significant amount of money had been taken out of the bank account belonging to Tan Xianhui. The withdrawal was made with his banking passbook and identity card, which, while suggesting he personally made the transaction, at the time banking security wasn't especially strict. Anyone with access to the account holder's documentation and security code could easily withdraw money. The bank the withdrawal was made had only a few security cameras for police to look through, and the grainy footage, along with the teller's witness statement, suggested Zhang Yuhui was the person who made the transaction. With no further evidence pointing to what happened to the missing couple, the investigation stalled, with police believing perhaps the couple just ran away from the area. 4 months later, on September 14, 2002, an elderly man walking along the banks of the Han River on his way to do some fishing stumbled upon a woven laundry bag lying on some rocks, 1 kilometer from the Han River bridge. Even standing meters away, the man could smell an extremely strong foul odor coming from the bag, which he found concerning enough to contact the police and inform them of his find. When police arrived at the scene and examined the bag's contents, they were greeted with the gruesome sight of a male torso, the limbs and head missing. The remains were already in a state of advanced decomposition, suggesting the victim had been deceased for some time before being found. A further search of the riverbank exposed a second bag, this time containing limbs with the hands and feet removed, and the head still missing. As police divers began searching the river for more remains, the investigation team began looking through the records of men reported missing from the surrounding area, and came up with the name Tan Xianhui. Given the condition of the torso, there was little chance for any family member to pick out possible identifying features such as moles, scars or tattoos, so police decided to attempt to use DNA technology to identify the body, something which wasn't especially widespread in China at the time. Taking samples from the mother of Tan Xianhui, police tested them against samples from the remains, but found the 2 didn't match. Further samples were taken from other family members, with negative results, meaning the body belonged to someone else, and the fate of Tan Xianhui and Zhang Yuhui remained a mystery. Thus far, police divers had failed to find any of the missing body parts from the river, leaving police with an uphill task in putting a name to the torso. The investigation team continued working their way through the list of men reported missing in the area in efforts to identify the body. As they eliminated names from the list of missing persons, they eventually reached the most recent report, which just happened to be made only hours after the unidentified torso was discovered along the banks of the Han River. Resident of Yicheng, Zhu Meigong, reported that his older brother, who ran his own furniture sales business, Zhu Meiyun, had been out of contact with family and friends since August 26. His brother did business around a number of other provinces in the surrounding region of the country, so his spending a significant amount of time away from home didn't initially raise concerns. Zhu Meigong told police that on August 24 his missing brother called him, asking for help in withdrawing 300,000 yuan, almost 42,000 USD, from his bank account. According to Zhu Meigong, his brother said he had a business deal in Beijing he needed to finalize quickly, but he wasn't in the area and didn't have his bank cards or passbook with him, so he needed someone else to withdraw the money for him. Zhu Meiyun instructed his brother to leave the cash in an apartment he was renting, allowing him to pick it up when he returned to Yicheng before immediately heading to the capital city, 1,000 kilometers to the north. Zhu Meigong informed police that he found his brother's tone somewhat strange during the call, but just put it down to him being concerned about the business deal falling through. After the call, he headed to the bank with his brother's identity card and banking passbook, but was only able to withdraw 210,000 yuan, 30,000 USD, and placed it in the apartment as instructed, along with his brother's documents. The following day, August 25, not having heard anything from his brother, he visited the apartment again to find the money and documents he left had gone. Believing his brother had picked up the money on his way to Beijing, he called Zhu Meiyun to ask if the 210,000 yuan was sufficient, but his calls went unanswered. The lack of response wasn't initially too concerning. Zhu Meiyun took frequent business trips and commonly wouldn't respond to calls when he was busy, but as days went by with no contact, the family grew increasingly worried. After 2 weeks with no word from Zhu Meiyun, Zhu Meigong decided to report the incident to the police, the same day the torso was found. With little chance of anyone in the family being able to identify the remains, police took samples from relatives, as they had in the case of the missing Zhang Yuhui and Tan Xiehui, but this time they got a familial match. Having 3 people vanish in the space of 3 months in similar circumstances, the investigation team believed the 2 cases were likely somehow linked. So with the positive identification of the remains found by the river, they began looking into the disappearance of Zhu Meiyun, hoping it would lead them to discovering the fate of Zhang Yuhui and Tan Xiehui. According to his relatives, Zhu Meiyun didn't have any personal conflicts with anyone, and at the time of his disappearance, his life was going well. He just completed the biggest business deal of his life, earning him several 100,000 yuan in the process. He and his wife had divorced several years prior, leaving him with custody of their daughter, but looking into the wife as a potential suspect, she was quickly eliminated. The only possible issue with his character was that he enjoyed gambling and frequented illegal casinos, with cards being his game of choice. The investigation team began tracking down gambling buddies of Zhu Meiyun with help from his brother, which took them to a friend of Zhu Meiyun named Peng Lu. Peng Lu informed police that about 30 of them regularly gathered to play cards together, where the stakes got into the tens of thousands of yuan, but he claimed the games were friendly with none of the participants being serious gamblers. He did, however, add that Zhu Meiyun hadn't been shy when it came to discussing his recent financial success. Peng Lu added that the businessman had recently been talking about a new game he'd been introduced to by other people who often attended the casino, saying he would go to play at that individual's home to participate in exclusive games. Peng Lu didn't know much about the individuals involved, so the investigation team began speaking with other people among the gambling circle of Zhu Meiyun. Each would fairly quickly be eliminated from suspicion of being involved with the disappearance and subsequent homicide of Zhu Meiyun, but through continued interviews the name of an interesting suspect emerged. A fairly new face to the casino seemingly had recent good fortune, coming to play wearing a new large gold chain around his neck and an expensive gold watch on his wrist, to go with his new tailored suits. Most of the other gamblers only knew him with the name Brother Ren, and while previously he'd participated in games with comparatively low stakes, just a few hundred yuan, he was now happy to play for tens of thousands. One person interviewed claimed he asked Brother Ren about his apparent newfound wealth, to which the man jokingly replied that it was easy to make money these days. You just kidnap someone rich to extort them, and if you don't leave any trace of them after, you can get away with it. The investigation team didn't take the comment as lightly as the gambler, and set about trying to identify Brother Ren. 2 days after finding the remains of Zhu Meiyun, police were given the name Ren Yongyuan as the true identity of brother Ren, and looking into his background, he appeared a promising suspect. With no obvious means of income to support his gambling, he had 2 prior criminal convictions, one for the violation of a woman, and another for theft, serving prison sentences for both incidents. Even more concerningly, in 1998, he'd been accused of an attempted kidnapping, but his target managed to escape his clutches and report the incident to the police. While he was criminally detained for the attempted crime, eventually Ren Yongyuan and his target came to an agreement and the case was dropped without charge. The investigation team went to arrest the suspect at the address he was registered as residing, keen to speak with brother Ren. According to neighbors, he previously shared the apartment with his wife who'd since divorced him, several years prior. The neighbors also informed officers that Ren Yongyuan recently had an extension built on the apartment in an alleyway separating 2 apartment blocks. Knocking on the door to the suspect's home received no answer, with people living in the same building saying they hadn't seen Ren Yongyuan for several days. The investigation team ordered the property manager to give them access to the apartment, allowing them to search the home. Frustratingly for the investigation team, it appeared Ren Yongyuan had already fled the area, likely after the remains of Zhu Meiyun were discovered. However, continued search of the home left them sure he was the person responsible for not only ending the life of Zhu Meiyun, but also Zhang Yuhui and Tan Xianhui. Hidden in the drawer of a bedside table, they discovered bank cards belonging to the 3 people who'd been reported missing, along with the wallet and banking passbooks that appeared to belong to the missing married couple. In another drawer, the investigation team found a significant amount of pills, which were later identified as sedatives to help people sleep. Ren Yongyuan also had a small library of literature about prior criminal investigations in China, along with books about Chinese criminal law. The main part of the apartment didn't display any signs of a violent crime taking place, so the investigation team moved on to searching the relatively newly constructed annex, which police could enter through a door connected to the apartment's lounge. The first floor of the extension took the appearance of a garage, with the unusual feature of an open squat toilet in one corner of the space. Behind the garage, there was a small room seemingly used as a space to store household items. However, something in the room quickly caught the attention of the investigation team. In the corner of the space was what looked to be a drainage pipe, but on closer inspection, it wasn't connected to anything, a small gap left between the pipe and ceiling of the storage room. Moving away various items near the pipe, turned up 2 loose tiles on the floor underneath. Under the tiles were concrete slabs with a screw attachment embedded into them, allowing someone to fairly easily remove the blocks from the space, exposing an underground passageway. Going down into the passage, the investigation team found a hidden white tile room with chain shackles and rings in the wall to hold people captive. The investigation team quickly came to the conclusion that this was the place Zhu Meiyun, Tan Xianhui and Zhang Yuhui met their ends, and their bodies broken down prior to the remains of the 3 missing persons being dumped in the Han River. Now the investigation team just had to track down Ren Yongyuan, and a nationwide arrest warrant was issued. On September 23, 2002, the investigation team discovered that Ren Yongyuan had used his identity card to register his stay at a hotel 800 kilometers to the north, in the Zhao County area of Hubei province, located on the outskirts of the provincial capital city, Shijiazhuang. The Hubei investigation team gave their Hebei counterparts the go-ahead to arrest Ren Yongyuan as they made their way north to interrogate the suspect themselves. In the very early hours of September 25, after confirming Ren Yongyuan was still at the location his identity card was flagged, an arrest team stormed the room and took the suspect into custody. When the investigation team arrived, it quickly became clear Ren Yongyuan wasn't going to confess to the crimes he was accused of committing, and apart from confirming his name, said little else to officers. During their questioning of associates of Zhu Meiyun, people mentioned that Ren Yongyuan frequently attended the illegal casinos with another man, who they only knew by the name Brother Liu. The investigation team's working theory was that Ren Yongyuan convinced the victims to visit his home, probably to gamble, where he drugged them with sleeping pills before moving them into the underground chamber. He then held them captive to get money out of them, and once satisfied, he tried to make his victims disappear. Officers strongly believed he didn't do this alone, as moving the unconscious victims into the underground chamber by himself would have been challenging. The most likely suspect for being his accomplice was the person known as Brother Liu, and if they couldn't get Ren Yongyuan to talk, maybe he would. The investigation team began looking into known associates of Ren Yongyuan and came up with the name Tao Yanming. Tao Yanming had both a history of working in construction and criminal convictions. It emerged that while serving a prison sentence for theft, he was actually a cellmate of Ren Yongyuan during his last incarceration. Showing images of Tao Yanming to people they'd previously questioned, he was identified as the person going under the name Brother Liu, and neighbors of Ren Yongyuan stated he was the person who'd helped Ren Yongyuan construct the annex. The investigation team began hunting Tao Yanming and found that unlike Ren Yongyuan, he hadn't attempted to flee the area. Police arrested the suspect at his home in Yicheng, and he confessed to being involved with the kidnapping, homicide, and disposal of Zhu Meiyun, Tan Xianhui, and Zhang Yuhui with Ren Yongyuan. Confronted with the news his partner in crime had confessed, Ren Yongyuan had little other option but to admit the truth, partly through concern Tao Yanming may have tried to play down his level of involvement. After his previous failed attempt at kidnapping someone with money and extorting them, Ren Yongyuan, looking at the empty space between his apartment and the adjacent apartment building, hit upon the idea of constructing a place he could hold his victims captive while emptying their bank accounts. Remembering his former cellmate Tao Yanming had worked construction before, he reconnected and asked him to assist with building the annex, an underground prison, filling him in on what he was going to do with it. After hearing the plan about holding wealthy business people captive while taking their money, Tao Yanming didn't hesitate with agreeing to help, even when Ren Yongyuan told him they were going to make their targets permanently disappear. In 2001 they started building the annex, and once completed, went out looking for targets. They began attending illegal casinos, less to gamble, and more to spot people whom appeared to have money. Tan Xianhui was something of a casual gambler, just seeing it as a way to socialize during his free time, and he was quickly picked out by Ren Yongyuan as a good possible target. Using their recent work building the extension to the apartment to strike up conversation with Tan Xianhui, Ren Yongyuan told the man he had a potential construction project from someone who saw the work he did on his apartment. Tan Xianhui showed an interest in the work, so Ren Yongyuan told him he'd get in contact when he signed a contract for the project. On May 20, 2002, Ren Yongyuan made the call to Tan Xianhui, asking him to come take a look at the potential site. Ren Yongyuan gave him the location where he could pick him up, and after meeting he drove Tan Xianhui to his apartment, saying they were going to get Brother Liu. Once inside the extension and shutting the door to the garage behind them, Ren Yongyuan and Tao Yanming attacked Tan Xianhui, easily overpowering him. They bound the man with rope before gagging him, then took him down into the underground chamber, where they used the chains to shackle him to the wall. Once he was chained to the wall, they took whatever money he brought with him, but were somewhat disappointed it was only 10,000 yuan, 1,400 USD. Tan Xianhui had left his banking documents at home when going out to meet with Ren Yongyuan, so wanting to earn much more from the scheme, Ren Yongyuan demanded Tan Xianhui call his wife and tell her to bring the items. He resisted for as long as he could, but eventually Tan Xianhui, after being violently coerced by his captors, gave in and made the call to Zhang Yuhui. After answering and leaving the home, she found herself in the same position as her husband. The following morning, Ren Yongyuan took her to a bank to withdraw money, leaving Tao Yanming to watch Tan Xianhui. Hoping that if she just did as asked, she and her husband would be allowed to go free, she made the transaction and returned to the apartment of Ren Yongyuan. However, once back in the underground prison, she was chained to the wall once more, where Ren Yongyuan and Tao Yanming placed plastic bags over the head of her and Tan Xianhui, ending their lives. The two men then got to work breaking the bodies down into more easily movable parts, before dumping them in the river off the Han River Bridge. The two men lived well off the money they'd taken from their victims for the next 3 months, and in the August of 2002, with police not close to arresting them, they decided to strike again after hearing Zhu Meiyun boasting of his recent business success. They began befriending the furniture salesman over the course of the following weeks, Ren Yongyuan inviting Zhu Meiyun to gamble at his home on several occasions, having introduced him to a new game. Building up trust with the target, frequently letting him win more hands of cards than them, on the evening of August 23, they decided the time was right. Dissolving sleeping pills in the tea they gave Zhu Meiyun, the trio played cards until they took effect, and Zhu Meiyun was sedated. Ren Yongyuan and Tao Yanming then bound the unconscious Zhu Meiyun and moved him into the underground chamber. Taking any cash Zhu Meiyun was carrying with him, they waited for him to wake up and demanded more money. Zhu Meiyun told the men he could go to his home with them, collect his banking information, and give them whatever he had. However, his captors knew that would expose them to too many potential witnesses, so they ordered him to think up another way to get the money. Ultimately, Zhu Meiyun made the call to his brother Zhu Meigong, asking him to withdraw 300,000 yuan and leave it in his apartment, along with his bank card's passbook and identity card. Zhu Meigong did as requested, and Ren Yongyuan later went to the apartment to collect the money and bank documents. When he returned, Ren Yongyuan and Tao Yanming ended the life of Zhu Meiyun in the same manner they had with the previous two victims and broke the body down. Once again, they threw the bags containing the remains of their victim in the Han River, but unlike with the previous victims, this time the bags washed up on the banks of the river. Rather lazily, they never bothered to weigh the bags down, instead believing the current would take the evidence of their crimes away from the area. This seemingly worked with Tan Xianhui and Zhang Yuhui, as their remains were never recovered. In the case of Zhu Meiyun, despite an extensive search of the river, his head, hands and feet were the only parts never found. When the news broke of remains being discovered, Ren Yongyuan fled the area, heading north to Hubei province, without informing Tao Yanming. It appeared Ren Yongyuan also failed to tell Tao Yanming exactly how much money he actually managed to take from their victims. When questioned by police after being arrested, he admitted being given only 50,000 yuan, around 7,000 USD, a far cry from the hundreds of thousands Ren Yongyuan kept for himself. During his own confession, Ren Yongyuan initially denied having anything to do with the disappearance of Tan Xianhui and Zhang Yuhui, believing if their bodies weren't found, there was nothing to prove he was involved. When confronted with the evidence of the banking and identity documents belonging to Tan Xianhui being found in his home, Ren Yongyuan tried to claim he found them, and accused Tao Yanming of lying when police said he'd confessed. However, a full forensic examination of the extension turned up traces of blood that didn't belong to the two men in custody, or Zhu Meiyun. Testing later proved that the blood very likely belonged to the missing married couple, eventually forcing Ren Yongyuan to admit to ending their lives. After a year looking for the remains of Tan Xianhui and Zhang Yuhui with no luck, Ren Yongyuan and Tao Yanming appeared in court on October 15, 2003, charged with 3 counts of intentional homicide, kidnapping, and extortion. With no doubt over their guilt, the defendants having confessed, all evidence pointing to them being guilty, and no possible exonerating circumstances, the appearance was little more than a sentencing hearing. During the year between their arrests and the trial, both Ren Yongyuan and Tao Yanming tried to assist the investigation team with finding the missing remains. They rather vainly hoped the efforts to help the police, and fully confessing to their crimes, may see them avoid being handed the harshest possible punishment. However, once the trial came to a close, that faint glimmer of hope quickly went away. The pair were sentenced to death for the 3 counts of intentional homicide, kidnapping, and extortion of Tan Xianhui, Zhang Yuhui, and Zhu Meiyun. Just days after receiving their punishment, Ren Yongyuan and Tao Yanming were led from their prison cells and executed by firing squad for the crimes they committed. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, leaving a comment, and subscribing to the channel. And hope to see you again for the next dark tale from the Middle Kingdom.